from the last one, and the reason they're doing it is I've been posting a lot about the coronavirus and all the lies that the Chinese are making and what the reality of it is. And they have an algorithm that hunts that out. So I've gone to a new website I'm going to publish most of this on. It's called MeWe.com. So MeWe is a social media site like Facebook, but the one thing about it, they let you publish whatever you want, and they don't restrict free speech and advertising. So I still have my Facebook that I'll put a lot of things on, but MeWe, I'm going to put these really more powerful things. And so if you're not on that, I suggest you get on and check it every day just to see what I'm posting, because I can put the real stuff there where Facebook doesn't want me to on theirs, or other people. There's lots of people that are really upset over it now with what they're doing. They just put out a declaration yesterday that published today from Facebook saying that they're going to go after any products they're saying that it can prevent, treat, cure the coronavirus. And what's doing it? Well, okay, so you got to play according to whatever the rules are, even though those are unethical, I think immoral, and perhaps unconstitutional. I would think not perhaps they are. But there's a lot of people that take advantage of this situation, and they put out products. They say this will work for it and do this, but there's been even some remedies. People saying drink bleach, and it'll kill the virus. Yeah, you too. In the process, I don't know where the stupidity comes from, but a lot of it's based on stupidity. A lot of it's on greed, and they'll put ingredients in, and they'll over-exaggerate, overhype. They underperform or don't perform. And what we're doing is looking for the real stuff. Well, we've got the real stuff, and we put it together, and so we have a pack called MEGAmmune, and MEGA, and then MUNE, and that has the products in it that we have to support your body. Now, this is the way I have to say it, in its fight against not only the coronavirus, but a number of other types of viruses and some bacterial activity. Your body has the ability to fight it, but it's like you can't go very far if you don't have much gas in the tank, can you? And so what we're doing is we have the powerful ingredients that really can do something, and you can take them on the premise that your body's doing the work, but we're providing super nuke fuel to it so it can just be as energetic as possible, and you can have good effect. Plus, we have a great concept in Body Shield. It's really quite revolutionary because, and I've known about it for many years, and had a product like this that used the fulvic acid that's in Body Shield in my previous company, and of course I got it. It's in Spectramax now, but the Body Shield is a formula that's almost all of that. And the reason I developed it was when they had the nuclear meltdown in Japan and all radiation hotspots all over Japan. Well, the power of fulvic acid is you have a radioactive molecule, and it is just ravenous for electrons, and it'll shred them from your body, and that's why the bodies deteriorate and you die so fast with it. But fulvic acid has a plethora of excessive electrons, and it just bombards the desires of the radioactive molecule, so it neutralizes it. Once all the rings, they call it the valence, there's numbers of rings around it. Once they're all satisfied, it's neutralized. So fulvic acid neutralizes radiation. Well, that's not a drug claim. So we can say that kind of thing, and that's what they use in Chernobyl Russians have known about it for quite a while. And they used it in Chernobyl to clean up everything. It sprayed the ground, the trees, the plants, gave it to animals, sprayed buildings, equipment, everything, because it annihilates radiation. Well, that's not what we're fighting here with the coronavirus. We're fighting a virus, but the way that fulvic acid really is used is there wouldn't be any life on Earth if it wasn't for the sun sending down hydrogen, but there also wouldn't be any life on Earth if fulvic acid wasn't produced, which has hydrogen as a component of it. I won't go through all of the equations, but what happens is, I can give you an easy analogy, and that is, how do you eat an elephant? Well, one bite at a time is the only way to do it. So how does a plant eat a rock? Well, one little bite at a time. And what happens is you have these large rocks and colloidal, which means it's a large size that can stay in suspension without solution, but of a mineral, or it can be an organic material, and it's too big to be absorbed through the root. So organic fulvic acid comes, and just like a magnet would pick up steel shavings, it does the same. It pulls off the smallest components, ionic sizes of whatever the mineral is, and then attaches to it so firmly it can't be destroyed even in the gut, and it takes it up through the roots in the plant, and then plants die, and it goes back in the soil, and it keeps making it. Plants actually produce the symbiotic relationship with the sun and hydrogen to make it in the soil. And then when an animal or a person eats a plant, you get that mineral that's so difficult to absorb into your body, and it will be highly absorbable. The fact is, if you add fulvic acid to many of the inorganic compounds like magnesium and other types of minerals, such as that calcium, you're talking about 3 or 4%, some less than that, that's absorbable. But if you add organic fulvic acid to it, the range, if I remember correctly, goes to 91 to 97%, depending on the type of mineral absorbable. So it has enormous power with all of that. Well, that chelating power, they call it, chelating, is chelating power, is like the magnet that picks up the steel shavings to it. Well, what it does is when it's in the body, it has been shown that it will, in a process like chelation, attach to the suckers that are on appendages sticking out from a virus. A virus just looks like a big porcupine with its prongs going out everywhere, but on the end of them, it's like a sucker, like you'd see on an octopus or something like that. And what it does is it will attach to a human cell, and when that happens, then it punches a hole, the virus does, down through that attachment, and it injects the virus down into it. And then the cell is a host, and it'll produce perhaps millions of bacteria, destroy the cell, and it does it so quickly because it replicates so fast that they explode and they're all released, and it just repeats. But there's that unique property that it has with organic fulvic acid, that it will attach to, not to the virus itself, but to those sucker points that are there. So they're effectively, it's like you put a piece of tape over it, so it couldn't attach to anything, and but it's coated with the organic fulvic acid, and because of that strong chelating power, it stays there, and it keeps the viruses. This is in the studies. Now, this isn't on our formula. I'm telling you the studies on the ingredient. The studies show that doesn't matter what type of bacteria, a virus there is, not bacteria, it's a different thing. But no matter what type of virus it is, it will keep it from replicating because it attaches to all of these prongs. And there's so many fingers that go clear around the virus itself, so that no matter where it's at, if it bumps into a cell, it can attach to it. But now if you have this in your system, then you're rendering it incapable of replication, and it will hang there, and then the immune system can come in and kill it, because it's not just infecting and exploding, it is incapacitated. It cannot replicate. So that's nobody has that out except us. And no one's ready for it, and perhaps sometime they would. I don't know how long the epidemic's going to be, but it's starting to rage now. with it. But in all candor, this is a revolutionary concept because there is no vaccine that will kill the virus. There is no medication that will kill it. So the only thing between you and the virus is your immune system. Well, now we have a few arrows in your quiver to shoot at that, and one of it is how about keeping it from replicating by bonding to it? That makes huge amounts of sense. Then we have influence and Avenger and Fucoidan that come along on top of that. And they're all designed to super fortify your immune system for both viral effectiveness and bacterial effectiveness too. And they have a combination. Influence itself is strictly viral. The one that's very good on bacterial and viral is Fucoidan. And then Avenger has got viral power, but also more bacterial force in that. So that's what's in our MEGAmmune, those three products. Now, here's the problem, is we've been selling these products. So it didn't catch us flat-footed, but it caught us by surprise. But we already have the formulas, we have labels, we have ingredients. And so immediately we went put it up for advertise it and told people what it could do. And we had this supply run, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 months. And it was gone in just a couple of days, just gone. But we could, fortunately, we had enough raws and got a whole bunch more in, and we put the pedal to the metal and been producing as fast as we could, so you can get it. So you can order that. Now, I would think you would want to, because there's a lot of things you don't understand about the virus. They just found somebody that here in the United States that they couldn't find had any contact with anyone who had come in from another country, and they had the coronavirus, and it had been dormant within them for a long time. And during the time when it's not dormant, the virus is in an incubation period. Now, normally a virus, when it's in an incubation period, it isn't infectious, but the coronavirus is the exception. The other thing is viruses don't do well in heat. The coronavirus is the exception. It's raging through the African and countries and up through the Arabic countries now, and it's places where it's 110 degrees in the day, and it is duplicating like crazy. So, but this is a man-made virus. It's an unnatural virus, they call it, and it was developed at Harvard University, and by a professor over the Department of Virology who just got arrested by the FDA, and I published that on it. I mean, you can look it up. Harvard professor arrested for virus. Just put that in your search engine. And what he did is over the department, and he found out, I guess the government's been looking at these universities because they're getting so much foreign money, particularly from China, and they wanted to see, they're not spending that kind of money just to help the institution. They got to be, with the Chinese especially, if you deal with them, you know one thing, they lie about it, virtually everything, misrepresent, and in fact they're misrepresenting the number of deaths and everything else. They have crematoriums around Wuhan. They have 7 of them, and they can burn a couple hundred bodies a day, and they're all raging. The air is just full of smoke from sulfur dioxide from burning corpses. So anyway, I get a little off track, but the professor, they were looking at these schools to see where the money was going. And so they saw there was quite a bit going into that department. And then as they investigated, they found out this professor was getting, for a number of years, getting $50,000 a month covertly sent to him from China. And he had 2 students that were helping him, and they were both students at the university, but they were spies. One of them is an officer in the Army. And when they caught him because of this, they went and arrested him and caught the officer that was there. So they arrested the two of them. The other was boarding a flight for China, and they caught him on the flight, and he had 21 vials of germ warfare formulations that he was taking back to China when they caught him. So now they're being prosecuted. They're held, I don't know. They're not going to let them loose, I'm sure of that, with it. But they might even end up doing life in prison for it. They certainly deserve it, I think, with what they're doing. But anyway, the professor, what he did is he received the coronavirus because he knew it had such a potential threat, and he got it from Wuhan. That's where all of this began. They have a big class 4, they call it, virological center there that does the most, the safest, the most effective way of testing viruses and things like that. And they knew it was of such damage. And because of time, I won't go through it all, but geez, even Gates and Facebook and Google's got their hands in this because they realize there's so much money that can be made on it, in my opinion. That's my opinion, of course, I have to say that. But they really do, and they had a conference here just in September on what to do if there was a coronavirus outbreak. Well, that's when it started, was in September. And they found out that a woman who worked at the Wuhan Center, who was a technician, a doctor, and she had her PhD, and she published a paper talking about the coronavirus was out. It had gotten into the population, and it could be a pandemic emergency with it. Well, they knew about it in September, but they never announced it until right around the first of the year, as you know, in January, because they wanted this paper to be out to cover their butts on telling people that it was loose and what it could do. So and that's the intrigue of politics and stuff. I hate it, but it's what we face. Anyway, with that, he got the virus from there, sent over here, the professor in Harvard, and then he manipulated it and made some changes to it. Now, there's CRISPR technologies in DNA, and what they're really making this for is germ warfare, and that's what they're working on. The Chinese, I believe, are working on this for germ warfare, and with that, so he made it so it was replicate. This is my understanding of it. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. He made it so that it could replicate much faster, and it was resistant to heat or cold. On top of that, and then where viruses only live for a few minutes on a surface, this can stay on a surface. Now they found out a hard surface. This is like a rail or a handrail or a faucet or on the kitchen counter or anything like that. It can last for, they know now, at least a day with it, which is unheard of with viruses. That means have to do a lot of things with it. Oh, and I forgot, one other thing we do have in the MEGAmmune pack is Terminator in the 2-ounce. And it's to spray to keep everything just as pristine as possible. I can't make claims for it, but it has enormous power. And so it's a spray. You can spray and wipe and spray your hands and do everything else with that too. But anyway, the virus was constructed in Harvard and then sent back to Wuhan. So it came from Wuhan. It was constructed. It now become an unnatural coronavirus because of alterations done on the lab there in Harvard and sent back to China. Then they've just found the technician. There was a technician working for it who, in spite of the fact this is a class 4 facility for virus study, and of course for developing germ warfare, you know what the Chinese are doing with this. And anyway, she got infected. But the problem with this is it lies dormant for, first they thought it would stay dormant for 14 days. Now they find out it will stay dormant for over 30 days in some individuals, and some individuals may never contract the disease because they don't know why, or the influenza. They won't contract it, but they'll be a carrier, and they could be for months. And they had somebody they flew in. Now, I have to say one thing about America. We are the most prepared country of them all, and Trump jumped right on it, restricted foreign travel. He had all kinds of opposition that was racist. You couldn't do that. Well, he restricted it coming from China or any of those Asian countries, and because of that, we're not having the big outbreak, but it's getting loose now, and it's so hard to control. And they brought Americans out of Wuhan. There was probably 500 or so that were there, and they flighted them out, and they brought them into a base, tested them for the coronavirus. Some of them had it, and they put them in isolation, quarantine for the period of time they thought they would do it. And then when they didn't test that they had it, they released them to the public. Well, they found out one of them they released was one of these carriers, and there's probably most of you aren't old enough to remember, there's a story about Typhoid Mary that in a century or century and a half ago went around contaminating people with typhoid fever, and she was a carrier, but she never got the disease. Same kind of thing. So this woman went out into Wuhan, it was a technician, and she started it in the population going. Well, it went, they said it started in the animal market. Now they've traced it back. It did not. It started from her that was there, and then it went to the animal market from there. But anyway, this person that came in was kept in quarantine for a couple of weeks and then was let go for, I don't know, they've been out for a month or so, and they find out they're a carrier. And now they've come down with it themselves, but they've contaminated so many people, and it's in the San Francisco area. So there's going to be some intensity thrown in there to do this. And as a consequence, the United States is doing a good job in reacting to it, but it is a son of a gun. So with that, there's also, I published a report a little while ago just to give you some information. As of February 1st, the Chinese government, while they were claiming there were only a few deaths, they have a health agency called Tencent, and they routinely publish what things are. And they didn't realize that the government said anyone that talks about any numbers or anything like that in the virus will be arrested, and they did arrest some people in some things. But this Tencent just put out their report. It was February 1st, and the report said there were, at that time, there were 24,589 deaths from the virus. But also with it, it said there were almost 300 deaths from another type of a bird flu virus, which is really quite even more dangerous than the SARS itself. And they were isolating 200 or 300 of to this virus, but about 25,000 of the other. Now they think that the numbers are up around 100,000 dead, even though China's saying 3,000, but they lie, they lie. So anyway, that gives you kind of an update on what's there. But what we did with the MEGAmmune pack, you can buy things individually. If I bought one thing, I would be taking, well, it's very healthy for you with Body Shield, and it'll make all your food more energized in your body and your cells too, and it detoxifies, and it actually chelates toxic heavy metals within the cells and will remove them from your cells, and you've all got a lot of toxic metals in there, so just taking it is really a good thing for health. But it will put that fortification in there that can attach to the virus and keep them from replicating. And man, in my opinion, that's better than a vaccine. They don't have one, of course, but that's there. And then, of course, you have Influence and Fucoidan and Avenger and then Terminator for that. And they are designed, even though I already had them designed because I tried to make them multi-purpose, there's about 6 big, and I published this. You can find it if you want to go on my Facebook. There are 6 major outbreaks that are occurring in the world right now in various stages, which can be considered to be pandemic. At least, I think, at least 2 more of these is going to be pandemic. And one is bacterial with whooping cough, and it's a superbug. It can't be killed by antibiotics or anything. So, but there's a way to handle that. Your immune system will handle it with it. And so this formulation, or these formulations, when you put together, if you're taking them, you might go through the whole pandemic. Said, yeah, I took them all the time, and I don't know if they did anything or not. But you never got the flu. See, that's the idea behind it. You can fortify it, keep it there. If I had kids, it's just like in Japan, they just shut down all the schools, and they're going to shut them down for a month, just so that the virus can't get around. That was just announced today. So that shows you all the schools in Japan shut down for a month. This is a aggressive thing, and the United States is well prepared for it, but it is so wild and so random, and we have a big population that it's a serious threat for us all. So my advice is fortify your body, you and your loved ones, with that kind of thing, till this thing gets through. And then I always keep some around anyway. If the flu season starts, I start taking it to start with, and I have my children do the same thing, because ounce of prevention is sure worth a ton of cure, wouldn't you say, in something like this. So that's the story on MEGAmmune, which I would suggest you get heavily into.